The forest was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Lieutenant Daniel Carter adjusted the strap of his rifle as he led his team through the dense underbrush. The mission was supposed to be routine. A patrol along the perimeter of the military base to ensure no unauthorized personnel were lurking nearby. But something felt off. The air seemed heavier than usual, and the silence stretched unnaturally long. Even the birds had gone silent. Daniel motioned for his team to stop. He crouched low, scanning the area ahead with sharp eyes. His instincts rarely steered him wrong, and right now, they screamed that something wasn't right. Slowly, he moved, forward, signaling for his squad to stay behind. Every step he took was deliberate, boots crunching softly against the damp earth. Then he saw it, a patch of disturbed ground, darker than the surrounding soil. Blood. His heart quickened as he followed the trail, weaving between trees until he reached a small clearing. There, lying motionless among fallen branches and leaves, was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked humanoid, but its skin shimmered faintly with an otherworldly glow. Blue markings pulsed rhythmically across its arms and neck, like veins illuminated from within. Its breathing was shallow, labored. Whatever this thing was, it was alive, but barely. For a moment, Daniel hesitated. This creature could be dangerous. It might not even be on their side. Yet looking at the wounds marring its body, cuts, burns, and what appeared to be laser burns, he couldn't bring himself to walk away. Despite everything he'd been taught about aliens being unpredictable or hostile, he couldn't ignore the fact that this one needed help. "Lieutenant?" A voice called out behind him. It was Corporal Ethan Cole, one of his most trusted men. "What is that?" "I don't know," Daniel admitted, keeping his voice low. "But it's hurt. Badly." Ethan frowned, glancing nervously at the alien. "Sir, we don't know what it is. What if it's some kind of spy or worse?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he knelt beside the creature, studying it closely. Up close, he could see more details. The angular structure of its face, the delicate webbing between its fingers, the faint rise and fall of its chest. For all its differences, there was something undeniably human about its vulnerability. "We can't just leave it here," Daniel said finally. "If nothing else, maybe it knows something useful. Let's get it back to the base." Ethan exchanged uneasy looks with the rest of the squad, but no one argued. Together, they fashioned a makeshift stretcher using branches and strips of fabric, torn from their gear. Carefully, they lifted the alien onto it and began the trek back to the base. The journey was slow and awkward, the weight of the stretcher making each step harder than the last. But Daniel refused to give up. Something about this situation felt important, though he couldn't quite put his finger on why. When they arrived, at the base, the sight of the alien caused an immediate stir. Soldiers stopped in their tracks, staring openly as the group carried it toward the medical bay. Dr. Laura Bennett, the head medic, rushed out to meet them, her expression shifting rapidly from shock to concern. "What in the world is that?" she asked, eyeing the glowing markings on the alien's skin. "No idea," Daniel replied, "but it needs help." Laura nodded briskly, ushering them inside. She worked quickly, hooking the alien up to monitors and scanning its body with diagnostic equipment. The readings were strange, almost incomprehensible, but one thing was clear: the alien was gravely injured. Without intervention, it wouldn't survive the night. As Laura tended to the mysterious patient, Daniel stood nearby, watching intently. He noticed how the blue markings seemed to dim slightly when the alien's condition worsened, then brightened again as treatment progressed. It was as if the light was tied directly to its life force. Fascinated, he found himself leaning closer, studying every detail. "You really think bringing this thing here was a good idea?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. "No," Daniel admitted, "but I couldn't leave it out there to die. Not like that." Ethan sighed, shaking his head. "Just hope you're not wrong about this, sir." Hours passed and word of the alien spread throughout the base. Whispers filled the hallways, speculating about what it was and where it came from. Some soldiers were curious, others fearful. A few demanded that it be handed over to higher command or removed entirely. Tensions ran high, but Daniel remained resolute. Whatever this creature was, it deserved a chance. Late that evening, after most of the base had settled down, Daniel returned to the medical bay. Laura was still working, typing notes into a tablet while monitoring the alien's vitals. She glanced up as he entered, offering a tired smile. "How's it doing?" he asked quietly. "Better," she replied. "Whoever, or whatever, it is, it's tougher than it looks. Still, I've never seen biology like this before. Those markings, they're part of its circulatory system, somehow integrated with its nervous system too. It's incredible." Daniel nodded, gazing at the alien thoughtfully. Its chest rose and fell steadily now, the blue light stronger than before. For the first time since finding it, he allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. Maybe saving. This creature wasn't such a reckless decision after all. Unbeknownst to either of them, the alien stirred slightly, its eyelids fluttering open for the briefest moment. Though neither Daniel nor Laura noticed, the faintest hint of awareness flickered in its gaze before slipping back into unconsciousness. Somewhere deep within, the alien registered warmth and safety, two sensations it hadn't known in a very long time. Days turned into a week, and the alien slowly regained strength under Dr. Laura Bennett's care. The base buzzed with speculation about the mysterious visitor, but the creature remained unconscious, offering no answers. Then one morning, everything changed. Daniel was sitting in the medical bay reviewing reports on his tablet when he heard a faint groan. He looked up to see the alien stirring, its glowing blue markings flickering weakly as it shifted on the bed. Dr. Bennett rushed over, her movements calm but deliberate. She placed a hand on the alien's shoulder to steady it while checking the monitors nearby. The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered like molten silver. For a moment, it stared blankly at the ceiling, disoriented. Then, its gaze locked onto Daniel, sharp and calculating. "Easy," Laura said softly, though she wasn't sure if the alien could understand her. "You're safe here." The alien didn't respond immediately. Its breathing quickened and its body tensed as if preparing to fight or flee. Daniel stood up slowly, raising his hands slightly to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said, his voice steady. "We're not going to hurt you." The alien tilted its head, studying him intently. Its expression softened ever so slightly, though suspicion lingered in its glowing eyes. After a long pause, it opened its mouth to speak, but the words came out as a series of guttural sounds, alien, incomprehensible. Laura grabbed a small device from the counter, something she had been working on since the alien's arrival. It was a crude translation tool, pieced together using fragments of alien languages recovered from previous encounters. She activated it and held it close to the alien. "Try again," she urged gently. This time, the alien hesitated before speaking. The device crackled, processing the sounds, then emitted a halting mechanical voice. "Who are you?" Daniel exchanged a glance with Laura, surprised by the clarity of the response. "My name is Daniel," he said carefully. "This is Dr. Bennett. We found you injured in the forest. Do you remember what happened?" The alien, still lying on the bed, closed its eyes briefly, as if trying to piece together fragmented memories. When it spoke again, its tone carried a hint of frustration. "I was ambushed. My mission failed." "What mission?" Daniel asked, leaning forward slightly. The alien's gaze hardened. "That is none of your concern." Tension filled the room. Laura stepped back slightly, sensing the alien's discomfort, but Daniel didn't retreat. Instead, he kept his focus, steady, refusing to let the conversation end there. "You're in our care now," he said firmly. "Whatever you were doing, it brought you here. If we're going to help you recover, we need to know more." For a moment, the alien said nothing. Then, almost reluctantly, it began to share bits of information. It identified itself as Kayla, an assassin sent to eliminate a high-ranking official from another faction. Her mission had gone awry when rival forces tracked her down, leaving her stranded and wounded. Though she revealed little beyond these basics, her words painted a picture of a life shaped by violence and survival. As the days passed, Kayla grew stronger, though her demeanor remained guarded. She rarely spoke unless prompted, and even then her answers were clipped and cautious. Despite this, Daniel found himself drawn to her. There was a depth to her silence, a weight behind her piercing gaze that hinted at untold stories. He visited the medical bay often, sometimes bringing books or music to share with her, hoping to bridge the gap between their worlds. At first, Kayla showed little interest in his attempts, but gradually curiosity got the better of her. One evening, as Daniel played a soft melody on a handheld speaker, Kayla tilted her head, listening intently. "What is that?" she asked, her voice still rough but less hostile than before. "It's called music," Daniel explained. "People make it to express emotions, joy, sadness, hope. Do you have anything like that where you come from?" Kayla hesitated, then shook her head. "No, we do not create, only survive." Her words hung heavily in the air, and for the first time, Daniel saw a flicker of vulnerability in her otherwise stoic exterior. It made him wonder how much of her coldness was a mask, hiding scars far deeper than the physical wounds she bore. Not everyone shared Daniel's growing empathy for Kayla. Rumors spread among the soldiers, fueled by fear and mistrust. Some viewed her as a threat, an enemy waiting for the right moment to strike. Others questioned whether harboring her violated military protocol. Colonel Harris, the base commander, summoned Daniel to his office one afternoon to address the growing unrest. "Lieutenant Carter," Harris began, his tone stern, "you've taken quite a risk bringing that thing here. I understand your intentions, but morale is suffering. The men are uneasy, and higher command will have questions." "I know, sir," Daniel replied, standing at attention. "But she's not just that thing. She's intelligent, capable of communication, and she's unarmed, injured. If we turn her away, or worse, we lose any chance to learn from her." Harris sighed, rubbing his temples. "Idealism won't win wars, Lieutenant. You're walking a dangerous line. I'm giving you until the end of the week to prove this. Alliance has value. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to take action." Back in the medical bay, Daniel relayed the conversation to Kayla. To his surprise, she listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. "You should leave me," she said finally. "Your people will never accept me." "They don't have to," Daniel countered. "All they need to do is trust me. And I trust you." Kayla studied him for a long moment, her glowing markings dimming slightly. For the first time, Daniel saw something akin to gratitude in her eyes, though it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Despite Daniel's efforts, tensions continued to rise. One afternoon during a routine checkup, disaster struck. Kayla accidentally triggered one of her embedded weapons, a hidden blade concealed within her forearm. The sudden movement startled Laura, who stumbled backward, knocking over a tray of instruments. The clatter drew the attention of nearby soldiers, who burst into the room with weapons drawn. "Stand down," Daniel barked, stepping between Kayla and the armed men. "She didn't mean to do that." "She's dangerous," one of the soldiers shouted, his rifle trained on Kayla. "We can't keep risking our lives for some alien freak." Kayla's posture stiffened, her markings flaring brightly as adrenaline coursed through her veins. Daniel could feel the situation spiraling out of control. He raised his hands again, addressing the soldiers. "She's not a threat unless provoked," he said firmly. "Lower your weapons or you'll force her to defend herself." Reluctantly, the soldiers obeyed, though their distrust was palpable. Once they left, Daniel turned to Kayla, his expression serious. "You need to be careful," he warned. "They're already looking for reasons to act against you." Kayla met his gaze, her voice low and controlled. "I am sorry. That was unintentional." "I believe you," Daniel said. "But accidents like that only fuel their fear. We need to find a way to build trust, not just with me, but with everyone here." Kayla nodded silently, though doubt lingered in her eyes. She knew the odds were stacked against her, Yet, as she watched Daniel stand by her side despite the risks, a small part of her began to wonder if trust could truly exist, even between two beings from such vastly different worlds. Over the next few days, Kayla began to open up more, though her progress was slow and measured. Daniel noticed subtle changes in her behavior, how she would occasionally ask questions about Earth, or listen intently when he shared stories from his childhood. She still kept much of herself hidden, but there were moments when her guard slipped, revealing glimpses of a person behind the hardened exterior. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the base, Daniel brought Kayla a photo album. He had borrowed it from another soldier, knowing its contents might spark curiosity. Flipping through the pages, he pointed out pictures of mountains, oceans, and bustling cities. Kayla studied each image carefully, her glowing markings dimming, slightly as if deep in thought. "Your world is very different," she said finally, her voice softer than usual. "It seems peaceful." Daniel chuckled dryly. "Not always. We have our share of problems, just like anyone else. But yeah, compared to what you've described about your homeworld, I suppose it is." Kayla didn't respond immediately. Instead, she lingered on a photograph of a family gathered around a dinner table laughing together. Her expression was unreadable, but Daniel sensed a quiet longing beneath her silence. "What about your people?" he asked gently. "Do they ever find peace?" Kayla hesitated before answering. "No, not really. Our lives are service, survival. There is no room for anything else." Her words carried a weight that made Daniel pause. For all her strength and skill, Kayla seemed trapped in a life she hadn't chosen, a pawn in someone else's game. It reminded him of soldiers back home who enlisted out of necessity rather than desire. The realization deepened his resolve to help her, even if he wasn't sure how yet. As their bond grew, so did Kayla's contributions to the base. One afternoon, while observing the human defense systems, she offered insight into their weaknesses. Using knowledge of alien technology, she suggested modifications that could enhance their effectiveness. At first, Colonel Harris was skeptical, but after implementing one of her ideas, the results spoke for themselves. The upgrades worked flawlessly, earning Kayla a grudging respect from some of the soldiers. Despite these small victories, not everyone warmed to her presence. Private Ryan Mitchell, a young and impulsive recruit, remained openly hostile. He viewed Kayla as a threat to humanity's security, convinced she was biding her time until she could strike. His resentment boiled over during a heated argument. In the mess hall, "She doesn't belong here," Ryan shouted, slamming his tray onto a table. "She's an assassin, for crying out loud. What happens when she decides we're her next target?" "She hasn't done anything wrong," Daniel countered, stepping forward. "If anything, she's helped us improve our defenses. You're letting fear cloud your judgment." "Fear keeps us alive," Ryan shot back, glaring at Kayla, who sat quietly in the corner. "You're blind, Lieutenant. Mark my words. This will end badly." The confrontation left a sour taste in the air, but Daniel refused to back down. He knew Ryan's attitude reflected broader concerns within the base, and addressing them head-on was the only way to move forward. Still, the incident weighed heavily on Kayla. That night, as Daniel joined her in the medical bay, he found her staring out the window, lost in thought. "You okay?" he asked, pulling up a chair beside her. "I heard what he said," Kayla replied without looking at him. "He is right to doubt me. My kind has caused harm, to yours and others. Trust is difficult to earn." "It's not impossible," Daniel said firmly. "Look at how far we've come already. People are starting to see you differently because of what you've done for us." Kayla turned to face him, her silver eyes searching his. "Why do you trust me? After everything you know about me?" Daniel hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Because I see more than just an assassin. I see someone trying to survive just like the rest of us. And maybe, just maybe, you want something better for yourself." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kayla nodded slowly, her markings brightening slightly. Whether it was gratitude or determination, Daniel couldn't tell, but he felt a shift in their connection. They were no longer just two strangers navigating uncertain waters. They were allies bound by mutual respect and understanding. Their fragile alliance faced its greatest test when Kayla revealed a crucial detail about her mission. Late one night, as the base slept, she approached Daniel with urgency in her step. "There is something you need to know," she said, her voice low but steady. "The data I was sent to retrieve, it holds information about my people, about why we fight. If I can deliver it to my leaders, it could change everything." Daniel frowned, sensing the gravity of her words. "What kind of information?" "Proof of betrayal," Kayla explained. "Evidence that those in power have manipulated us for generations. If my people see this, they may rise against them." The revelation struck Daniel like a punch to the gut. He realized the stakes extended far beyond the base, or even Earth itself. Helping Kayla complete her mission could alter the course of interstellar politics, potentially bringing peace where there had only been war. But it also meant risking everything they had built so far. "We'll help you," Daniel said after a long pause. "But we'll need to be careful. If anyone finds out, they will try to stop us," Kayla finished for him. "I understand, but I cannot abandon this. Not now." The next morning, Daniel met with Dr. Laura Bennett to discuss logistics. Together, they devised a plan to locate the hidden cache containing the data Kayla sought. It was stored in a remote area, miles away from the base, protected by advanced alien security measures. Retrieving it wouldn't be easy, but with Kayla's guidance and human ingenuity, they stood a chance. Colonel Harris, however, proved to be a significant obstacle. When Daniel presented the plan, the commander's face darkened with anger. "This is madness," Harris snapped, slamming his fist on the desk. You're putting the entire base at risk for some half-baked scheme dreamed up by an alien." "It's not madness," Daniel argued. "This could bring peace, not just for her people, but for ours too. Isn't that worth the risk?" Harris stared at him, his jaw clenched tight. Finally, he let out a frustrated sigh. "Fine, do what you must. But if this goes south, don't expect me to clean up your mess." With Harris's reluctant approval, preparations began. Supplies were gathered, routes mapped, and contingency plans drawn up. As the day of departure approached, tension filled the air. Soldiers whispered among themselves, speculating about the mission's outcome. Some doubted Kayla's intentions, while others admired Daniel's courage. On the eve of their journey, Daniel visited Kayla one last time. She stood near the edge of the base, gazing at the stars above. He joined her silently, offering companionship rather than conversation. After several minutes, she spoke. "When this is over," she said softly, "I may never see you again." Daniel nodded, feeling a pang of sadness at the thought. "Maybe not. But wherever you go, remember what we've done together. Remember that trust is possible even between enemies." Kayla smiled faintly, her markings glowing brighter than usual. "Thank you, Daniel, for everything." As dawn broke the following morning, Daniel and Kayla set out, leaving behind the safety of the base and venturing into the unknown. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and the promise of redemption for both of them. The journey to the hidden cache was fraught with challenges from the start. Daniel and Kayla traveled in a rugged military vehicle, navigating winding roads that led deeper into uncharted territory. The landscape grew harsher as they moved farther. From the base, rocky hills gave way to barren plains, and the air carried a biting chill. Despite the discomfort, neither of them spoke much, each lost in their own thoughts. Kayla sat rigidly in the passenger seat, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon for signs of danger. Her markings pulsed faintly, a constant reminder of the tension simmering beneath her calm exterior. Daniel kept his focus on the road, gripping the steering wheel tightly as he drove over uneven terrain. He knew this mission was risky, but turning back wasn't an option, not after everything they had risked to get here. Hours passed in silence until Kayla suddenly leaned forward, pointing toward a cluster of jagged rocks ahead. "There," she said, her voice low but urgent. "The entrance is near." Daniel slowed the vehicle and parked it behind a large boulder, ensuring it was hidden from view. They stepped out cautiously, weapons at the ready. The air was eerily, still broken only by the sound of their footsteps crunching against gravel. Following Kayla's lead, they approached the rocks where she knelt to examine the ground. After a moment, she pressed her hand against a seemingly ordinary section of stone. To Daniel's surprise, the surface shimmered and dissolved, revealing a narrow passageway leading underground. "This way," Kayla whispered, motioning for him to follow. The tunnel was dark and damp, its walls lined with strange, glowing moss that cast an eerie light. As they moved deeper, Kayla explained that the cache was protected by layers of alien technology designed to repel intruders. She would need to disable the security systems manually, which meant getting close enough to trigger them without setting off alarms. They reached a heavy metal door embedded with intricate patterns. Kayla placed her palm against it, and the markings flared brightly as the door hissed open. Inside, rows of sleek consoles hummed softly, their screens displaying streams of alien symbols. Kayla moved quickly, her fingers flying over the controls as she worked to bypass the safeguards. Daniel stood guard, keeping watch for any signs of trouble. His heart pounded as he listened intently for sounds of movement beyond the chamber. Every creak and groan of the structure set his nerves on edge. He glanced back at Kayla periodically, marveling at her precision and focus. Despite the gravity of the situation, he couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for her skill. Just as Kayla finished disabling the final layer of security, a loud clang echoed through the tunnel. Both of them froze, exchanging alarmed glances. Footsteps followed, rapid and deliberate. Someone else was here. "Hurry," Daniel urged, raising his weapon. Kayla nodded, pulling a small device from her belt. She inserted it into a slot on the main console, and data began transferring onto the portable drive. The process was agonizingly slow, each second stretching like an eternity. Meanwhile, the footsteps grew louder, accompanied by muffled voices. "They found us," Kayla muttered, her tone grim. Daniel didn't respond. Instead, he positioned himself near the doorway, preparing to hold off whoever, or whatever, was coming. Moments later, armed figures emerged from the shadows, clad in sleek, black armor marked with insignias unfamiliar to Daniel. Their leader stepped forward, pointing a weapon directly at him. "Step away from the assassin," the figure commanded, his voice cold and mechanical. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle, refusing to budge. "You're not taking her." Q. Standoff was interrupted by a sudden burst of light as Kayla activated one of her embedded weapons, a pulse emitter that sent shockwaves rippling through the chamber. The attackers staggered, giving Daniel and Kayla precious seconds to act. Without hesitation, they bolted down a side corridor, the portable drive clutched tightly in Kayla's hand. The chase was relentless. Laser fire ricocheted off the walls as they sprinted through the labyrinthine tunnels, relying on instinct and adrenaline to stay ahead. Kayla proved invaluable, using her knowledge of the facility to navigate shortcuts and dead ends. At one point, she triggered a collapsing barrier, sealing off their pursuers temporarily. "We can't keep running forever," Daniel panted, his lungs burning from exertion. "We don't have to," Kayla replied, skidding to a halt near another hidden exit. She tapped a sequence into a panel beside the door, causing it to slide open. Beyond lay a steep incline leading back to the surface. They climbed hastily, emerging into the blinding sunlight. The vehicle was still where they had left it, partially, concealed by the boulder. As they scrambled inside, Daniel noticed several enemy ships descending from the sky, their engines roaring ominously. "They're cutting us off," he shouted, slamming the accelerator. Kayla twisted in her seat, firing her pulse emitter at the nearest ship. The blast struck true, sending the vessel spiraling out of control. But more took its place, forcing Daniel to swerve wildly to avoid incoming fire. The chase spilled onto open ground, kicking up clouds of dust as they sped across the plain. Despite the chaos, Daniel felt a surge of determination. He couldn't fail. Not now, not when they were so close. Spotting a narrow ravine ahead, he veered sharply, hoping to lose their pursuers in the rocky terrain. The maneuver worked. Two ships collided mid-air while others struggled to follow. Finally, after what felt like hours, the enemy fell behind. Exhausted but alive, Daniel and Kayla pulled over near a secluded ridge to catch their breath. Kayla held up the portable. "Drive," her expression unreadable. "It's done," she said simply. Daniel nodded, relief washing over him. "Now what?" Kayla hesitated, looking at him with a mixture of gratitude and resolve. "I must return to my people. This data could change everything, for better or worse." The weight of her words settled between them. Daniel knew this moment had been inevitable, yet saying goodbye felt harder than he expected. "I'll miss you," he admitted quietly. Kayla smiled faintly, her markings glowing softly. "And I will remember you, Daniel. Always." With that, she stepped out of the vehicle, disappearing into the wilderness. Daniel watched her go, feeling a mix of pride and sorrow. Though their paths would likely never cross again, he knew their bond would endure, a testament to the power of trust forged in the most unlikely of circumstances. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Daniel turned the vehicle around and headed back toward the base. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful. Daniel returned to the base under the cover of darkness, his mind heavy with thoughts of Kayla. The journey back had given him time to reflect on everything that had happened, the danger they faced together, the trust they built, and the sacrifices they made. Though he knew she was capable of handling herself, part of him worried about what awaited her among her own people. Would they listen to her, or would they see her as a traitor for bringing evidence of betrayal? When he arrived, the base was eerily quiet. Soldiers patrolled the perimeter, their faces tense with anticipation. News of the mission's success and failure had spread quickly thanks to Private Ryan Mitchell. Despite Daniel's efforts to keep the operation discreet, Ryan had leaked details to Colonel Harris, who now demanded answers. "Lieutenant Carter," Harris barked as soon as Daniel stepped into the command center. "Care to explain why you risked this entire base for some alien agenda?" Daniel stood tall, meeting the colonel's glare without flinching. It wasn't just her agenda. It was bigger than that. That data could end a war. Not just for her people, but for everyone. Harris scoffed, shaking his head. "You're dreaming if you think an alien faction will suddenly turn peaceful because of one drive. What we did was reckless, and it puts us all in jeopardy." "It was worth the risk," Daniel shot back. "And I'd do it again." The room fell silent as other soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Some admired Daniel's courage, others thought he had gone too far, but no one dared challenge him directly, not yet. Over the next few days, life at the base slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could be after such a dramatic event. Rumors swirled about Kyla's fate, though no one outside the mission team knew the truth. Daniel kept mostly to himself, spending hours staring at the stars through the window of his quarters. He wondered where she was now, whether she had reached her homeworld safely, and how her people would react to the information she carried. One evening, as he sat alone in the mess hall nursing a cup of coffee, Dr. Laura Bennett joined him. She slid into the seat across from him, setting down a tray of food. "How are you holding up?" she asked gently. Daniel shrugged, offering a small smile. "I've been better, just processing everything, I guess." Laura nodded knowingly. "She left quite an impression, didn't she?" "She did," Daniel admitted. "More than I expected." They sat in companionable silence for a while before Laura spoke again. "Do you think she'll succeed? With her mission, I mean." "I don't know," Daniel replied honestly. "Her people aren't like us. They've been fighting for so long, it's hard to imagine them stopping. But if anyone can make them listen, it's her." Laura smiled faintly. "You really believe in her, don't you?" "I have to," Daniel said. "If I didn't, none of this would have mattered." Meanwhile, light years away, Kyla navigated the treacherous politics of her homeworld. Returning had been difficult. Every step felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm of suspicion and hostility. Her superiors greeted her with skepticism, demanding proof of her claims. When she presented the data, the room fell deathly silent. The evidence was undeniable, a web of lies and manipulation stretching back generations, orchestrated by those in power to maintain control. At first, outrage erupted. Some called for immediate action, while others accused Kayla of fabricating the information to seize power herself. It took days of heated debates and investigations before the truth began to sink in. Slowly, cracks formed in the foundation of the regime, as more and more of her people questioned the narratives they had lived by for so long. Kayla stood firm throughout it all, enduring accusations and threats with unwavering resolve. She thought often of Daniel and the lessons he had taught her about trust and compassion. Those memories gave her strength when doubt crept in, reminding her why she had chosen this path. Eventually, the tide turned. A coalition of rebels emerged, united by the desire for change. They rallied behind Kayla, seeing her not as a weapon or a tool but as a symbol of hope. Together, they dismantled the oppressive systems that had ruled their world for centuries, paving the way for a new era of peace and cooperation. Though she became a leader in this revolution, Kayla never forgot the human soldier who had shown her kindness when no one else would. On clear nights, she gazed at the stars, wondering if he ever looked at the same sky. Back on Earth, months passed before Daniel received any sign of Kayla. One night, as he strolled along the edge of the way, base, a faint hum filled the air. Looking up, he saw a sleek alien ship descending silently, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. His heart raced as the craft landed nearby and a familiar figure stepped out. Kayla approached him, her glowing markings steady and bright. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she extended her hand, holding out a small device. "This is for you," she said simply. "Proof that your trust was not misplaced." Daniel took the device, examining it curiously. "What is it?" "Evidence of our progress," Kayla explained. "A message of gratitude. From my people to yours. We wish to begin anew, to build bridges instead of walls." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes as he absorbed her words. "You did it," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You actually did it." Kayla smiled, a rare expression of warmth crossing her features. "We did it. Together." They stood there for a long time, sharing a silent understanding. Though their worlds were vastly different, their bond transcended those differences, a testament to the power of empathy and connection. As Kayla prepared to leave, Daniel stopped her with a final question. "Will I see you again?" "Perhaps," she replied, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "But until then, know that you changed my life and my world for the better." With that, she boarded her ship and vanished into the night sky. Daniel watched until the glow of her vessel faded completely, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. Even in the vastness of space, humanity's capacity for understanding and compassion could reach farther than anyone imagined.